What's going on, all you movie lover badasses out there? Phat Samurai Guy is here with Lady Phatblood, and welcome to another episode of the Verbal Nectar podcast. That's right, the ridiculous name brought to you by ridiculous people. So today, we're hearing all kinds of movie news, right? We got Lethal Weapon 5 might come out. We got fucking Indiana Jones 5 might come out. Robert Pattinson's Batsuit was revealed for the new Batman film. But we're not going to talk about all of that. I know you guys are expecting us to talk about all of that, but this is not what this podcast today, this episode is about. We are going to talk about, get ready for it, old movies! No!
Get the cane!
No!
Get off my lawn, you whippersnappers!
Okay, boomer! Unsubscribe, dislike, now! Anything but that. Not old movies. But fuck it. We like old movies, damn it. Alright? We like movies. We like cinema of all kinds, of different genres, from different eras. So we're going to be all over the place. That's right.
Yeah.
We may talk about the 10 Commandments. And then the next week, we may be talking about Roller Gator. The worst film ever made. Who knows? That's how we roll. That's how we do things here.
That's how we roll.
That's right.
Roller Gator.
Boo. Boo.
I'm here all week, motherfuckers.
You will be getting poked.
Thank you.
In the ribs.
Oh.
That's right. I got my left finger here. It's going to poke you.
With your left finger?
Yes.
Okay. To specify.
Yeah, we had to specify that. Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, we like all movies of all genres and all eras. And after the disappointing martial arts movie marathon that we had a couple of weeks ago.
It happens.
Yeah.
We at random, we didn't plan this.
No,
we had no plans to do this. We had a Saturday where we were just feeling really low key,
chill,
and I don't know what we were waiting for. We weren't really waiting for anything, but I just had this up my crawl that I wanted to pop in Wizard of Oz 4K that you had just gotten me for my birthday.
Yes.
And I think we were waiting for pizza to come to the house, something like that. And we didn't really have anything planned to watch for the day. And I'm like, You know what? I want to see how it looks on our TV. We just, a couple months ago, we got a 4K TV. We finally got a 4K player. And you got me the 4K Steelbook, Wizard of Oz. Now, Wizard of Oz is one of those movies that...
Steelbook!
That's one of the first movies I remember watching as a kid. I can tell you one of my earliest memories as a 5-year-old Lady Phatblood, Little Phatblood, was me with the chicken pox, home from school at the age of 5, sick with the chicken pox, watching The Wizard of Oz...
Yes.
All day long, eating cookies, like eating animal crackers.
Yes.
Homesick from school. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the first movie I ever remember, like, watching over and over and over. Probably driving my poor Mama Phatblood sick. Like, just probably driving her absolutely crazy. Because I would watch the movie over and over again. So that's one of those movies from my childhood that... I don't watch it, obviously, like, all the time.
Yeah.
But it's one of those movies from my childhood
nostalgia.
That I'm still very fond of.
Yeah, it's a nostalgia.
Like, I don't like it, again, I'll watch it, I'll dust it off, like, once every 3 or 4 years, and I'll just pop it in. Especially when there's a new release, like, obviously when it came out on DVD.
Right.
There was a very nice deluxe edition that I think you got for me.
Yes.
And I popped in the DVD, and at the time, it looked very nice. And when the Blu-ray came out, we upgraded then, and... looked very nice then, and obviously with this 4K version, I was like, screw it, I want to see what it looks like. And so we decided to pop it in, and of course we have this unspoken thing that Same thing happened with Predator a couple weeks ago with the movie, not The Predator, but Predator, the real movie, Predator.
Yeah, fuck that other movie.
The 1987 real Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Not The Predator!
No, the
Predator.
actual Predator, the real one.
Yeah.
Where wanted to pop in the 4K and see what it looked like, and lo and behold, we watched the whole goddamn film. Same thing happened with Wizard of Oz. One just does not simply pop in a movie to see how the picture looks.
Right.
And just not watch the whole film.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So we ended up watching the whole movie, and it looked beautiful.
Yeah, it was gorgeous looking. It was insane.
It was wonderful to rewatch that and in black and white and in color. It was burning our retinas out. And we ended up just kind of taking off from there.
Yeah.
And whether it was Blu-ray or 4K, we just kind of went with it.
Yeah, it was like, let's keep it old school. Let's watch some other movies. There were some movies I wanted to show you that you haven't seen. There were some movies you wanted to show me that I have not seen. And then we wanted to watch some movies together.
Yeah.
For the first time.
And it just kind of happened to where all these films were old.
Yeah.
So obviously The Wizard of Oz, 1939.
Woo!
Directed by Victor Fleming, a classic MGM film from back in the day, obviously. And I've been wanting to show you a couple of films, and they just happen to fall into the 40s category.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of films, one of which you wanted to show me was from the 50s, and then one from the 60s.
And we'll get to those.
And it literally just happened to be that way. So we ended up watching one movie that you and I had both seen.
Right.
Two movies that you had seen and I hadn't. Two movies that I had seen and you hadn't. And then one movie that neither of us had seen.
Right.
So it was kind of just funny, and they were old, and it was just like, screw it.
Yeah.
And that's what ended up happening that particular Saturday.
Wizard of Oz.
Well into the night.
Yeah. Wizard of Oz for me is pretty much the same. Mm-hmm. It's nostalgia.
Yeah.
I watched it a billion times when I was young as well.
Yeah.
The funny thing, though, is I never forgot something that Johnny Depp said a while back. That he was asked the question. This is not verbatim. I may be saying it wrong, but I remember something similar to where he was asked the question, like, what was the scariest thing you've ever seen in films? The scariest thing, icon, monster, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And he said for him, it was the flying monkeys.
Yeah.
That were controlled by the evil witch.
Right.
Right? Excuse me, the wicked witch.
Right.
And he said that freaked him out. That was the scariest thing ever. And so I remembered that. And I don't remember the last time we actually watched the movie. So when we rewatched it in 4K, I wanted to see that scene again.
Yeah.
And if you watch it now, it's still a cool scene. It's still fun to watch. Dorothy and the crew are getting chased down. But I wanted to watch it again in the Johnny Depp, as a young Johnny Depp eyes.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, that scene's kind of disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, the way it looks, the way it's filmed, and things had a weird, surreal look back in the day. Like, you look at the cartoons from the 30s.
Yeah.
Like, I always remember cartoons from the 30s looking creepy as hell.
Yes.
And this kind of, if you're a little kid, I don't remember the monkeys particularly creeping me out when I was a kid, but I could see...
Me neither.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh no, our buds are in danger.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
But I looked at it again, and if you think about it, if you're a super, super teeny tiny youngling, not knowing that's going to happen, just the image of them flying in, pretty good wire work.
Yeah.
The Shaw Brothers studio would be proud.
Right.
But yeah, the way they flew in, and then they all scattered because they were together. We're going to fight together. We're a team. Yeah. And then they all just scattered and get chased down relentlessly. And then the image of the Scarecrow,
just getting absolutely demolished with them like ripping his stuffing out and he's
stomping on him.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I kind of get it a little bit.
Yeah, it's all kind of fun because the Scarecrow, obviously, he doesn't die. He's literally after the aftermath. He's talking and he's alive and well.
But just the imagery.
But yeah,
that would be kind of like, whoa.
Yeah. But I gotta say, as many times I've seen this movie at least 100 times in my lifetime.
As have I.
I've gotta say, watching it again this last time with you.
Yeah.
I always crack up when I see the movie, but. And I've seen every nook and cranny of this movie, and I always remember even when I was little, I remember seeing the painted backgrounds of the sets.
Right.
I even noticed that when I was a kid, but seeing it in 4K, it's super enhanced now, but to me, it just adds to the charm of it. Like,
Yeah.
I love it.
You can really see the walls and the painted sets.
To me, it looks like craftsmanship.
Yeah.
It looks like, but it also looks like a dream-like craftsmanship, because in this movie, it is a little more geared towards this was all a dream. Even though I've never read the books, but if you go look at Return to Oz, it's not a dream.
Right.
She's actually in Oz, and this and that and the other thing. But anyway.
And that's your favorite. Is that your favorite rendition of the story?
Well, what, Return to Oz?
Yeah.
Oh, I love Return.
Or in that universe.
I love Return to Oz. I think Return to Oz is just like a fantastically, horribly underrated film where enough people just, I don't know if enough people know about it, and I don't think it did well enough.
I'd never seen it until you showed it to me. And I was just like, dude, this is actually a really fun movie.
I love it's a great dark fantasy, kind of creepy.
Yeah, it's dark fantasy.
That movie has one of my favorite movie moments of all time.
Yes.
We're getting off topic.
But back to Wizard of Oz.
So there were moments in this movie. There were two moments in particular that were absolutely cracking me up. Like the older I got, I remember the Cowardly Lion was cracking me up more when I was getting. The older I got, like his musical number, the way he talked, was cracking me up. The older I got, but this last time we watched it, the Tin Man. Was cracking me up.
Yeah.
There was one scene where they first met the wizard.
Yeah.
And I noticed him. I was watching him more than anybody this time around. Because I was always watching the Cowardly Lion. Because Dorothy was always front and center. But back in the day, I would always watch the Cowardly Lion. Because he was always like the one that was really scared. And he was the one that ran out of the castle and jumped out the window.
Oh, man.
Hell's a Poppin' style,
that was
right?
hilarious.
But this time I noticed... The Tin Man, for some reason, was really catching my attention, and I noticed he had wires hooked up to his outfit.
I didn't notice that either.
And I noticed the whole time they had his outfit shaking like madness,
right? Because
he was so scared. And I thought, wow, what a cute touch that he was like so petrified of the wizard that he was literally like violently shaking of how scared he was. And I thought that I'd never noticed that before.
And thanks to 4K. You could see the wires.
Yeah, which, I mean, it's forgivable.
But it's fine. It's fine.
It's forgivable. Yeah, it's fine. I didn't have a problem with that. I just thought it was funny. Oh, you can see the wire. But I was like, wow, you could really notice how I never noticed that before. But this viewing, for some reason, as many times as I had seen the movie, my brain had noticed this one particular scene before, but my logic sensors kicked in all of a sudden after as many years as I've been alive and watching this movie. My logic finally went, wait a minute. The scene where they've left the wizard's castle and they're in the forest going after the witch.
Yeah. He does. The wizard denied them their.
Well, the wizard's like, look, I'll help you, but you gotta go kill the witch.
You gotta kill the witch. Bring me her broom.
I'll help you.
Bring me her broom.
Bring me her broomstick, and then we'll talk. And then so they go off. So you got...
Which if you think about it, he kind of sent them to their death.
Yeah, because what are they going to do? It's a wicked witch with magical powers and all that. So you got Dorothy with Toto, which is like, what's she going to do?
Yeah.
So you got the Tin Man who's always got his axe. He's had his axe the whole time. So okay, cool. He's had his axe the whole film. No problem there. You see, all of a sudden, the Cowardly Lion, has got a giant butterfly net.
Right.
And a giant spray, like you would use a regular size spray of like mosquito repellent.
Yes.
But this is a giant spray.
Gigantic.
Of witch repellent or witch spray.
It said witch remover.
Witch remover spray.
It was painted.
Which again, keep in mind, my brain has visually acknowledged all this before, but never put it together.
I was the same way though.
Yeah.
Until you I didn't notice it either until you pointed it out.
Cut to zoom in of the Scarecrow with a revolver in it, a pistol in his hand.
He was packing.
A silver front and center of the frame pistol in his hand. And my brain immediately goes, wait a minute.
I don't remember that either.
I remember him having the pistol.
You do? I don't.
I remember all of this, but my brain immediately goes, wait a minute. Where did these items come from? And why do we never see these items again in 2 seconds?
Yeah.
So before the monkeys even attack, They have already lost these items, with the exception of the Tin Man, because he has his axe. It's the whole
part of his outfit,
so it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But they've already ditched the pistol, ditched the witch remover, and ditched the
net.
Fucking net.
Yeah.
In a matter of like 2 frames of movie.
I'm gonna have to try to find a shot, the close-up shot of when Scarecrow is holding the pistol. And that's going to be my new avatar now.
But, oh my god. I mean, of all the things.
I didn't remember until you pointed it out.
But again, it was one of those moments where my eyes always knew they were there.
Yeah.
But never put it together. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Why do we never see them with these things again?
Could you imagine the Scarecrow shooting the witch
right?
when she died?
I mean...
That would have been the most hilarious thing ever.
And what is the Land of Oz doing with a pistol?
I know,
For real, like, why do we have a pistol in Oz?
Witch remover.
Yes, and why does nobody else have this witch remover spray?
Just a perfect example of how they're telling this classic story based off the novel, and there were previous film, renditions that came up before.
There was a silent movie, I believe, but it was lost.
Right.
I believe.
I saw a few clips on YouTube. I don't know if there were just a few reels were discovered, but it looked kind of disturbing. I want to watch it again. Imagery-wise, it looked a little weird.
Oh, maybe they did. Maybe that one wasn't lost.
I want to see it.
There was a lost one, and then there.
Just out of curiosity, I just want to see it. Because if it looks, fucking dark and cool and creepy, we're there.
I think it was just a short, was it?
Maybe I don't know. I remember someone posted a video of clips.
Okay.
But
everything was disturbing back then, though.
I know, it was fun, but then, but that scene alone right there shows you that even though he's telling this classic story based off this novel, very popular novel, there's a huge fantasy element, obviously. With the movie, you have the beautiful costumes, the beautiful sets, the makeup effects.
The practical...
You have everything. But with that one scene right there, amongst many others, the Cowardly Lion running in fear and jumping out of a goddamn window.
Yes.
Which is hilarious.
Yes.
You could tell, and the musical numbers as well, you could tell they were having fun. They were being bonkers. They were not...
Yeah.
They were... the
Cowardly Lion, the way he spoke was very... Put him up, like that whole...
Put him up.
Yeah, the way he spoke was very... Oh, a copper, eh? Like that. It was very of the time, the way they would speak exaggeratedly in a gangster type.
See?
Yeah, like that. It was very exaggerated modern 30s speak.
But you could tell, though, the Scarecrow was packing.
Yeah.
He had a gun.
Yeah.
He's going about to pull Charles Bronson, Death Wish on the witch. But just that scene alone... just kind of, it's just a good reminder for everyone that they're having fun, they're being goofy, bonkers. You have that one scene where the Cowardly Lion is singing about him being the king of the forest,
yes,
right?
That ridiculous, the ridiculous,
right?
He would say,
and the whole courage line, like the whole courage.
What do they got that I ain't got?
What do they got that I ain't got?
Courage.
But he's all like, what was it? What's some of the lines? I'm already forgetting the lines, but I was saying them the other day.
What puts the ape in apricot?
What puts the ape in apricot? Courage.
What makes the muskrat guard his musk?
Courage.
Yes.
Right?
Nonsense.
So, obvious nonsense, obvious bonkers, obvious we're having fun comedy?
Yeah.
What the fuck were the critics thinking when you told me this? I did not know this.
Yeah.
The critics, listeners, did not like this movie. They panned the movie.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, what exactly were they expecting with this fantasy storyline? I don't understand. Did they want a dark, gritty reboot?
Well.
Like, I don't get it, though.
I mean, who knows? Maybe it was of the time, at the time.
That blew me away when you told me that, because I was assuming this movie was a huge hit.
Well, I think with the audiences...
The audience loved it.
I think the audiences did
obviously
fine. It was fine. But like critically, it was just one of those things.
It's just strange.
I mean,
because it's not like everything was a fucking musical back then.
What was out at the time though that was like the film? You know how sometimes things come out and critically people don't get it, and then 20 years later, like look at what happened with John Carpenter's The Thing. Nobody got that movie when it first came out. And then 30 years later, everybody reevaluates the shit out of it. And it's like, oh, shit, we were wrong.
That's true.
Sometimes things come out ahead of their time, even though...
The critics didn't like Empire Strikes Back. The critics didn't like Scarface.
Right. You know, sometimes...
Now everybody loves those movies.
Well, sometimes things just come out and people don't get it.
Right.
But luckily, audiences...
Yeah, but when you told me that, I was just kind of... I could not stop thinking about what the hell were they...
Right.
Were they expecting?
Right.
So, but anyway, back to the movie.
But yeah, so that was just really fun. I mean, as many times as I've seen it, I'm up there in age, kids. Okay, I'm getting up there, and I've been seeing it for as many years as I've seen it now, a couple decades now, and just to have that experience of seeing things again and still laughing at it, like, oh my God, I can't believe I've never thought about that before.
Yes,
and that was just as recent as 2 weeks ago. Yeah. You know, having seen that you know, having seen it for as many times as I've seen it, that was really funny.
But there's so many over the top out there moments, like when the tornado comes and picks up the house, and all of a sudden Dorothy's just looking outside the window, and you see the the Wicked Witch. You know, first of all,
it was Myra Gulch.
Yeah,
and
on the
bicycle, and then turning into the Wicked Witch.
We were laughing.
And then the two guys in the rowboat, and then one guy takes his hat off.
Yeah, there was a cow flying around.
Yeah,
I mean, we were cracking
shit.
up. So
yeah, just goofy.
I don't understand what the critics were talking about.
You know, again, but
anyway,
so that was a really fun time, and again,
that
the 4K,
was fun rewatching it.
The 4K looked fantastic. So if you know, if you're a collector, and if you're into 4K collections, if you don't have it already.
Steelbook.
Yeah, it's worth the cash.
Yes.
So,
and it does come with the Blu-ray too, if you need it.
Yeah. So I guess we just I just randomly was like, well, hey, we watched the old movie. So do you mind if I finally show you this? And I was a little nervous.
I wasn't expecting you to pop in the whiz.
So I was a little nervous.
Not going to talk about that film.
I was a little nervous because I never ever, the last thing I ever want to do is bore you or drag you into movies that
you know I'm going to hate?
Yes.
Or not be interested in.
Because I like certain movies. I am not going to be the one to bore you with things that I really like, but I don't know. Like, I was really nervous when I showed you the 1976 King Kong.
Okay.
Because I really liked it, but I knew it was long and there were gaps. It was kind of like Peter Jackson's King Kong, even though Peter Jackson's King Kong had a bit more going for it.
Right.
But
visually.
Visually. But it was still very long and there were gaps where a lot of stuff wasn't happening. But that was 76 King Kong 2, where it was very long and some of the stuff was a little clunky, but I thought there might have been enough in there and it was interesting enough that you might have been okay with it.
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast, overall, is not something I tend to really show you a lot of. Like, I know you like the Disney movie.
Yeah, Disney movie was the animated version. Yeah,
the animated movie.
Saw it in theater.
Yes. And the only reason you have ever seen...
We saw the live action Disney movie in theater also.
That atrocious pile of dog shit. I will never apologize. Fuck off. And now, I've talked about this before. Personally, that's the only fairy tale that I really have... that's kind of stuck with me as from childhood. Like, I still love a lot of different versions of that story.
When you were really young, you used to watch the Ron Perlman, Linda Hamilton TV show.
Yeah, and the only reason you know about that is because I own the series, and I've never sat you down and made you watch the show, but you have walked in and seen episodes while I was
fine with it.
While I was cross-stitching, and my point is that I've never forced you to watch anything of Beauty and the Beast.
Like I forced you to watch Double Team. With Van Damme and Dennis Rodman.
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, I have a lot of versions of Beauty and the Beast. Some of them I'd be interested to show you, but only because there's an element in it that I think might interest you. Like, I have a TV movie that's a little clunky, but George C. Scott plays the Beast. Now, we have recently...
George C. Scott.
We have recently become bigger and bigger fans of this actor.
Yes.
Like, the more we see of George C. Scott, like, I think I was first introduced to him in Doctor Strangelove, and that was when I first saw him, and I was like, who is this guy? And then the more I've seen of him, the more of a fan I become of this actor, and he's going to come up later in this discussion. But he's in this version, and I find this particular version,
the TV movie
version, interesting because certain elements of it are proto 1991 Disney's Beauty and the Beast in terms of how they depict certain things.
Right.
But I don't know if I really want to sit you down and watch it because it's clunky and it's little,
Yeah.
I have another version of Beauty and the Beast called I Am Dragon, which was a foreign movie. That's
Yeah, you told me about that.
Beauty and the Beast with a dragon instead of the Beast.
And you preferred that over the Vincent Cassel.
I did, very much
Beast.
so,
Yeah.
which was just basically a very inferior version of what we're about to discuss, which I was a little hesitant, but I thought the artistic quality of this film might interest you.
Yes.
Which is the 1946 Jean Cocteau version of Beauty and the Beast. Now, why I decided you might be able to be okay with this was it's not terribly long. It's a little... not terribly too romantic and sappy.
Right.
But I thought visually, you might get something out of this.
And you were correct.
I'm so happy you did not hate this film.
No, I enjoyed it. We took a trip to France.
Yeah, Blind bought me this a long time ago, the Criterion version.
Yes.
I had always been interested in watching this movie, and I watched this on my own a couple years ago when you bought me the Blu-ray.
So maybe you can answer this question. So this came out when in France?
This was 1946.
1946 France. And we did watch this in the French language, subtitled.
Oh yeah.
Was there an English dub on there?
It's Criterion. I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't think there's an English.
So my question is, after this movie came out, was there an American release of this story?
There are a couple of the short version is not directly of this. There is something called back in the 80s. There was something called Shelley Duvall's.
It took that long for an American version?
Well, here's the thing. There was a movie in the 60s called Beauty and the Beast, but it was not directly lifted from here. There was, I want to say, a silent Beauty and the Beast, but that movie was lost for sure. That one was lost. But it was a different kind of take on it, but it wasn't anything like the Cocteau inspired version. It was kind of like a different version of Beauty and the Beast.
Because you think Hollywood would have milked the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Big production value.
Yeah, but it wasn't, I haven't seen it yet. I've been wanting to watch it, but I can't find a version of it that, I don't want to pay for it because it sounds kind of hokey, what I've read into it.
Okay.
Like if I found it on Amazon Prime, I would definitely watch it, or Netflix or anything. I would definitely stream it first and then consider buying it. But it sounds kind of low budget, not terribly low budget, but it just sounds like something that I'd rather watch first before I.
So nothing of quality then from Hollywood or after this film.
Nothing from what I've seen, because
out.
like I said, I've seen the George C. Scott TV movie,
right,
which was not super Hollywood. It was, like I said, it was like a TV movie. There was another foreign Beauty and the Beast, which is a very interesting version, I think called Pana Netvo or something like that, which I would buy if I could find a good Blu-ray version of. But then there was the Shelley Duvall Fairy Tale Theater version, which was a TV show, which was almost a direct retelling of this.
Was Shelley Duvall the
No,
beauty?
she was not. Susan Sarandon was. That's me.
I was getting scared there. Shelley Duvall was the beauty.
No, she was not.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
No, she was not.
Okay,
but
and to each his own. No, if she was made the beauty, that's okay.
What's that one actor's name?
You said it was Susan Sarandon.
Susan Sarandon.
Oh yeah,
she played Belle.
Yeah.
But it was like a shortened.
Susan Sarandon is hot in The Witches of Eastwick. Tell me, I'm sorry. Tell me I'm wrong. Cher, I don't give a fuck about Cher, and obviously Michelle Pfeiffer. She's beautiful, obviously.
Yeah.
When I watched Witches of Eastwick, Susan Sarandon was so hot in that movie. I was like, why am I not paying attention to Pfeiffer? And I'm checking out Susan Sarandon. Went off topic.
So that was basically like almost a direct remake of this version. And then in 1986, the Canon Group, they were doing called Movie Tales.
Oh.
They were doing something called Movie Tales.
Canon.
Yes.
Okay.
And they did not a direct remake of this, but they did a very close version of Beauty and the Beast.
Canon did something really.
They did.
I love Canon, by the way. We love Canon.
They were doing a lot of.
I'm surprised.
They were doing a lot of fairy tale movies. Like they did Puss in Boots with Christopher Walken.
Oh boy.
Yeah, they were doing like Sleeping Beauty. They were doing like all kinds of movies. They did The Frog Prince.
Yeah.
But they also did Beauty and the Beast with John Savage and Rebecca De Mornay.
How was that one?
I own it.
Okay.
I had
cheesy but fun.
I have a very big nostalgia spot for it. Yeah. Like, I kind of low-key love it because of my nostalgia for it.
Yeah,
it's
you
not
grew
great.
up with it. Yeah.
It's not great, but I do like it.
Right.
But it's a musical. It's a cheesy musical. A little bit.
Right. So now back to the...
So...
How do you say his name?
Jean Cocteau.
Jean Cocteau.
Jean Cocteau. So one of the first things that I remember really liking about it was once you got to the castle...
Yeah.
The visual style becomes very dreamlike. Even the score kind of backs that up.
Yeah.
With the visuals that you get.
Now, fans of this fairy tale, is it pretty much in unison everyone's favorite is this one?
I really would.
If they don't like the Disney, I mean, it's okay to like both. I mean, obviously you like several different versions, right?
Yeah.
But like hardcore
honestly,
fans,
I would not know. I am not a part of Beauty and the Beast fan forums.
Because I grew up with the Disney one.
Yeah.
I saw it in theater. It was a lot of fun. I'm a little nostalgic for that too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go out and buy it for myself, but I did enjoy it. It's all about Gaston, man. But I haven't seen those others that you just mentioned, the George C. Scott one and stuff.
Yeah.
But I can't argue with you, or if you say this is the best one, the Jean Cocteau one, because I wasn't like, because it's old school.
Yeah.
Right? I knew what I was getting myself into.
Yeah. Black and white, by the way, obviously. Yeah. This is all,
So I knew what to expect, but there were some legitimately funny moments in the movie that made me laugh.
Yeah.
But visually, though, I will remember this for a long time.
Right.
Because I'm like, the visuals, the special effects, and what they had to work with back then to create these illusions and very dreamlike castle, and these human arms holding candlesticks.
Yeah.
You got some nightmare fuel here for you guys. You have you have faces that are like a part of the fireplace.
I think that was my favorite part.
And then I was just like, dude, I can't stop looking at them. They're going to turn and look at me.
Yeah.
It's just kind of freaking me out, but in a good way.
Yeah.
And I was just like, but the visuals, though.
Yeah.
How they did things for that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was impressive.
Right.
And it did feel very dreamlike, and I have to applaud.
Yeah.
I have to applaud. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Even though, like you said, it's not really my thing.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed it, though.
Yeah.
And yet, you have a multi-billion-dollar or million-dollar live-action version that,
is soulless.
With soulless.
Heartless. Ugly. Without any character whatsoever.
CGI, not really impressive in terms of the beast effects.
Like I said, soulless and heartless.
Yeah. And then you have this movie that came out when?
46.
Kind of trumps it.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
And I will say that where I was not a fan of the Vincent Cassel, which is a shame because I do like Vincent Cassel.
Yeah. I figured he'd make a good beast.
He did. And I will say that why I was not a fan of that movie, because it was essentially a remake of the Cocteau. They just tweaked some things and they added some things.
Okay.
A bit here and there. It wasn't a direct shot-for-shot remake, but it was more of a
Followed
remake.
the same storyline?
Very closely. Like I said, they just added some things and just tweaked some things here and there.
Yeah.
Where I like deviations of the story. Like, that's why I loved I Am Dragon so much, was because you take the premise and you do something different with it.
Yeah.
That's what I like. You just take things and you just take the concept and just do something else with it. And what I did like better about the Cassel version than the 2018 live action Disney remake was, at least as the Beast, he emoted.
Oh, really?
Because he actually looked like he was emoting, and looked.
So you can actually see emotion in his face?
I felt like you could.
So what was it, practical and CGI mixed?
I think it was more CGI, but I think there was hints of practical.
Okay.
But it was at least more convincing than the 2018 version.
Wow.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it was better done.
All right.
Which is like fucked up. I mean, because think about it. It's a French remake.
Yeah.
20 what? 2016
I'm sure in budget
French remake.
I'm sure in budget comparisons,
So yeah,
Disney is like
it's not going to be nearly as much as expensive as what the Disney movie was.
Right.
And I heard that Disney was going to try to go mostly practical with the Beast at first, and they chickened out.
Boo.
And they went CG, and look at it. It's without any character whatsoever, and I hate it.
The waste of Dan Stevens.
Absolutely. And that's a shame, because Dan Stevens is one of the most emotive actors out there you're going to get.
So intense.
Go fucking watch Legion and see what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Or The Guest.
That too. Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, I enjoyed it.
I'm glad you didn't hate it. I'm really
Do
glad.
you recommend?
If you can handle foreign black and white old movies, absolutely.
But it's got subtitles.
Yeah, I know.
I can't read when I'm also trying to see things.
I'm going to go on a little brief tangent here. We did put Parasite on our top 10 list.
Yeah, top 10 movies of 2019.
And obviously we talked about this, and we don't give a shit about the Oscars, but I hope that this kind of opens some people's eyes.
It's about damn time.
About what is possible when it comes to foreign cinema.
You got to think outside the box. Here in America, we make really good films here, but it's everywhere.
Yeah, there's more.
And people need to know there's other great movies outside of America.
Yeah, and sometimes I wonder if sometimes as Americans we shut out other foreign cinema, not just because there's not recognizable faces in it, but because we allow bad dubbing to become just part of the norm.
Yeah.
Maybe if we didn't have such shitty dubbing, we would be more open to non-sub. I don't know. The reason we choose subtitles is because our dubbing is always so shitty.
Yeah, it's true.
I can't tell you for certain that if we had good dubbing here, I would watch the dubbing version. I can't tell you that I would, because I become so accustomed to subtitles.
Yeah. Well, it's authentic when you hear the real language.
Yeah, you hear the emotion.
Yeah.
It just flows more naturally to me, and we're so used to it that's just how we are fine with watching movies now. Yeah. But I can understand why some people would be so turned off by it. But the truth of the matter is, for us, we have seen, and it's different with animation, because the animation, if you can get a good actor in there, the animation isn't really going to capture the facial contortions that it takes to emote facially.
Right.
But you can capture it vocally.
Yeah.
But when it comes to facial expressions on a live action person,
yes,
you're going to see it and you're going to hear it. And that's like a twofold reaction.
Yeah.
But you're going to lose everything if the vocals aren't there.
Right.
And that's the problem with American dubbing. It just is not there.
No.
So until we can get on the level of, apparently a lot of countries, they have professional dubbers. Like I've heard in other countries, they have people.
Germany.
Like Germany and Japan too, they do it all the time. They have one actor that will dub only Brad Pitt, and he will dub Brad Pitt for 20 years.
Yeah.
And when he retires, then that's it. That was his job.
Take it
for
more
20
seriously,
years.
yeah.
Yeah, and people are fine with it, and that's just how it is. But here, that's just not how it happens.
Right.
And we're just not exposed to enough foreign cinema to allow that to be a thing here.
Right.
But I just hope that Parasite maybe opens up some eyes that, hey, good cinema is out there, and maybe it'll open up the doors for something like 1946 black and white movie like Beauty and the Beast, where just, hey, give it a shot.
Some of the greatest horror movies ever made, some of the greatest action movies ever made, mysteries, thrillers, dramas. They all exist.
You just showed me a movie yesterday,
Miracles,
which is the international title of the film, a Jackie Chan movie that's criminally. I have never heard of this film before, and I saw a 2-second clip with the English dub, and it was atrocious.
Yeah, it ruined that whole scene.
And I watched the entire film subtitled, obviously, and I loved the film.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine watching it dubbed. Like it was awful.
And it was a dramatic scene.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I'd rather have, I want to hear Jackie Chan speak Cantonese and read the subtitles over, what the hell are we going to do, see?
Yeah.
Are we going to go over there? What do you mean? It takes you out of the scene.
Yeah. And in a movie like Beauty and the Beast, with the way the acting is already, because it's, first of all, it's the 40s. And, say what you want. A lot of movies in the 30s and the 40s, the acting style back in the day, especially in the 30s, but even a little bit in the 40s, the acting style was already very overly dramatic anyway, because that's the way they acted back then.
And they've come from silent films.
Yeah.
Which they had to act big.
They had to overact because you had no benefit of vocalization. But in this case, this is also a fantasy movie, so you have that benefit of, well, you're allowed to be a little over the top anyway and over dramatic. You had Avenon, which was kind of like the Gaston equivalent.
Right.
Having his dramatic turn his face to the camera and do his monologuing and all that. Who was actually also the actor who played the Beast as well. You had all of that, that kind of acting style, but just imagine that kind of overacting with an atrocious English dub.
Yeah.
Like, that would completely destroy the film. So you already have that delicate balance of slightly overacting, but you can forgive it because that's the style back then, but it's also a fantasy, so you can kind of forgive it, but then just like an atrocious dub. It would just like completely ruin that already precarious balance.
Yeah.
In my opinion, but that's,
Yeah. So if you can handle old school with subtitles.
Yeah.
And if you like fantasy films, we recommend the Jean Cocteau. You have to say it like that,
Jean Cocteau.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
So, it was your turn.
Yes.
To show me something. So that was The Hustler.
Yes, one of my favorite movies, The Hustler.
1961, directed by Robert Russin.
And, starring Jackie Gleason and Paul Newman and your girl from
Piper Laurie.
From Carrie. Carrie's mom.
Piper Laurie. The first thing I ever saw her in was, let's see, did I see Carrie first or did I see Return to Oz first? That's an odd question to have to ask. I don't remember. I think I might have seen Carrie first, to be honest. I saw horror movies when I was younger, so I might have seen Carrie first. So my first introduction to Piper Laurie might have been when she was Carrie White's psychotic mother. I think it might have been. But anyway.
They're all gonna laugh at you!
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had never seen this film before.
And, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you liked it.
This definitely...
You know what I thought you were gonna do?
What?
After the movie was over?
What?
Because you didn't really react that much. So I was just like, I wonder how she's taking it, right?
Yeah.
And then after the movie was over, I thought you were gonna go, That's what I thought you were gonna do. I was like, it was well made.
This was
this is
one of those movies that I've heard about forever.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
really?
The Hustler. You hear about it all the time. You hear about classics. You see snapshots about it like all the time. Mm-hmm. This was one of those films where it fell into the category of Good and the Bad and the Ugly, and Raging Bull.
Yeah.
Where it's like
classics.
Where I get it.
Yeah.
I get why it's in that category.
Right.
I totally get it.
In the classic.
And the funny thing is that if you've never seen it, I have to warn you. This is the biggest slice of nothing of a film. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
Slow burn?
This is a movie where it's nothing but interpersonal stories.
Yeah.
This is not big stakes. This is not some guy who's like putting it all on the line to get the billions of he's running for state, he's running for the presidency, he's gonna lose his family, the world is gonna end. No, this is a guy who walks into a pool hall and wants to challenge Minnesota Fats. And he plays for 48 hours at first, some shit like that.
Yeah.
And he almost wins.
But he defeats himself.
Yeah, and that's the movie.
He's a hustler that ends up getting hustled.
It's really one of those movies where you're just like, you have to settle in. You have to very early on realize what this movie is, because it's nothing but people.
Yeah.
This is a people film.
Yes.
It's just a people story. It's a very personal, people just being people.
Yeah.
People just who hate who they are, who are just stuck, who are just trying to maybe be better than what they are, or just trying to survive.
Yeah,
it's really
all of that, really, yeah.
It's everything.
That's what the movie's about.
It's just everything and just getting somewhere, but maybe not. You can't really, and nothing really happens, but everything. It really depends on your perspective, and it's a personal story.
Well, stuff happens later.
It's really one of those. It's a personal story.
Yeah, it is.
It's something you have to settle in for.
Like you said, people just trying to survive, trying to better themselves, but then failing sometimes. And I mean, it's not all about him making money though and hustling these other pool guys. He does want to be the best because he's good at. That's the only thing he's good at. Mm-hmm. So you do have that, but he underestimated Minnesota Fats, played by Jackie Gleason from the Honeymooners, TV show fame, who completely played against type.
I can't express.
He was really good in this movie.
I loved his demeanor.
Yeah,
like.
He didn't even say a lot.
No, he didn't. But it was the presence.
Yeah.
It was all about the presence that he had.
And Paul Newman even said that he was a little intimidated.
I could see that.
Yeah.
He had that type of like, oh shit, who's that?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but it was a great scene though. They play. He challenges Minnesota Fats. They play for so many hours. They're drinking throughout the night. Slowly but surely,
Minnesota Fats gets more disheveled as the night goes on. Like he's, he just gets more like just messed up.
You mean?
Well, no, Minnesota. Well, because he. Well, obviously Paul Newman gets worse. Paul Newman, the worst. He gets drunk. He's like fucking shit faced by the end of it.
He's winning.
But I liked how Minnesota Fats looked like he was getting frazzled too.
Yeah.
But as soon as he knew he had Paul Newman, he walks into the bathroom, cleans up, combs his hair, puts his jacket back on, and he's won.
Yeah.
Like he hasn't even taken the shot yet, and he's won because he knows he's won.
Let's play pool.
Yeah.
And then Paul Newman was like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
I like how you got our boy George C. Scott. This guy's a loser.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about our boy a little bit.
Oh.
Perfectly casted for this part. Sniveling, sleazy character.
Just sleazy.
A guy's got a lot of money and who's bored.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, that's his character.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so Minnesota Fats kind of works for him, or at least he gets a cut from him. And then in one part of the movie, he actually, when he knows Paul Newman is down in his luck too, he goes to Paul Newman. He tries to, use him to make money, and which does not go well, also. But just so slimy.
Yeah.
Slimy in this movie. Just great acting from Scott, man.
Yeah.
With his Johnny Bravo hair.
Yeah.
That he had for 5 seconds.
He had this magnificent coif the first scene you see him in, and then I was like, oh, sweetie. Oh, we've got some magnificent, like, JoJo Bizarre's Adventure hair going on here. And then the next scene you see him and he's got normal hair. I'm like, damn it!
I know.
What happened?
He changed it to something.
And it was like he had one pickup shot where he just had, like, this magnificent poof. And then the rest of the movie, it's all normal. I'm like, damn. But,
So, this was... I did not know this, but you told me after you watched the film with me that this was the first time you've experienced Paul Newman.
I've never seen a Paul Newman film.
Yeah.
Okay.
No
Paul
Cool
Newman,
Hand Luke, no...
Paul Newman is just one of those actors that he's obviously at this point in time... He's just a legend.
Yes.
Okay, I've seen Robert Redford films.
Yes.
Okay, and no, not just the Marvel films. Okay, no, it's not just that. I haven't seen really his older stuff.
Which I'm gonna get to.
We'll get there.
I'll show you that.
We'll get
stuff.
there.
Yeah.
But I have seen him in things.
Yeah.
But I have not seen, to my knowledge, like I cannot personally remember actually seeing Paul Newman. In a film. Mm-hmm. I just know who he is by cultural osmosis, and obviously it's Paul Newman. You just know who he is. He's one of those actors. You just know. And so, I get it. I get why. I get why he was such an iconic and charismatic and legendary actor, an iconic actor, and why he got as big as he was.
Now I got to show you The Sting.
Yeah.
Then I got to show you. I think I mentioned Cool Hand Luke already.
Yeah, you did just now. Yeah.
But the other movie he did with Robert Redford, the Western, that I can't think right now. Butch Cassidy
and the Sundance Kid.
Yeah, Sundance Kid. I got to show you that too. But yeah, he's definitely one of the best though.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you enjoyed the film.
I
But
did.
Again, I was kind of like, okay, she's quiet. She's probably she might be bored.
No, it's one of those movies where it's very thick.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know if this is gonna make sense when I kind of describe it. The movie is very thick with a.
There's barely even any dialogue.
Yeah, it's
the beginning of the film.
Yes.
There's barely any dialogue.
It's
until he walks in.
It's a very just thick, weighty film where, because it's so heavily reliant on being character driven.
Yes. You
feel the weight of all of the characters' troubles.
Yes.
And how down they are in the holes of their lives. Mm-hmm. And because of that, you just kind of have to sit there and feel it with them. Mm-hmm. And so this isn't a film that you're constantly laughing at.
Right.
You're not reacting to it.
Right.
You're not like happy. Okay, I'll give you the example again. I'll go back to Miracles. Okay, I'll go back to Miracles.
Yeah.
Every time Jackie Chan was doing a fight scene, which wasn't often, but every time there was a fight scene, I couldn't stop smiling.
Yeah.
Okay, when there were jokes that landed, I was cracking up. You know, when stuff was happening in that film, I was reacting to it because it's very fun. It was a very fun, cute movie. It was a very sweet film to watch. This is not that kind of movie.
No.
This was a very kind of close to reality type of situation, a film where you could see real people in this movie, whereas like, yeah, I could see myself in this type of lifestyle.
Right.
I could see this being very much a realistic setting.
Yeah.
And you just, because it's so well, the dialogue is very realistic and just the situation is very realistic.
So this was a time capsule movie, too.
Yes. Very much
so. Like, you want to go back in the early 60s?
1961.
Right. This is a time capsule.
Yes.
movie. Mm-hmm.
And so it just felt weighty. Yeah. It felt very heavy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it wasn't going to be one of those movies where the credits roll and I pop up going, wow, that was great! It wasn't going to be like that. It was kind of like, wow, I totally get why this is one of the classics.
Fun fact, just for myself. no one else is going to give a shit.
Yeah.
But before I saw The Hustler, I saw an old classic Shaw Brothers film called The Five Fingers of Death, which is one of the titles for that film, starring Lo Lei, who's one of my favorite martial art villains from back in the day, famous for playing the character of Pai Mei. We just saw him in Miracles.
Yes, we did.
He had a role in that. But his early work, before the Pai Mei stardom, he was a good guy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he was a good guy. And he was the hero in Five Fingers of Death, which was also the first... Are you ready for this? It's the first martial arts movie that was released here in theater. Oh, man. That movie was. Five Fingers of Death.
What
was
year?
The first one. 1972. I know you're asking the question, why are you bringing this up? It's because I'm not positive about this, but I think this movie was inspired by The Hustler.
Really?
Because in this movie, two totally different characters, right? In this movie, he does get both of his hands broken.
Okay.
He gets his hands fucked up. And so he has a scene where they're all wrapped up like Paul Newman's, right? Because those gangsters were like, "Oh, you coming in here and trying to hustle us?
Yeah.
We're about to fuck you up," and they fuck up his thumbs.
Right.
So he's like that. The imagery of him having, his thumbs and stuff in casts and stuff like that. And then he's frustrated, just like Paul Newman was. He has a female that's with him, a love interest,
right,
that's frustrated with him and trying to work with him and trying to help him out, and then eventually he gets his hands back. And it just really reminded me of, when the very first time I saw Hustler, I was like, man, this is Five Fingers of Death.
Yeah.
It's just very similar.
Right.
I know there's probably no connection. I'm just, like I said, it's a fun fact for me.
Yeah.
It just reminded me of Five Fingers of Death.
Yeah.
That would be hilarious, though, because how many more years? Set in 1972?
Yeah. So
Maybe the director was influenced? Or the people that, I don't know. I'm probably looking way more into it.
Who knows?
But it just reminded me of that. But go ahead.
No, so yeah.
I recommend that to people now. I mean, I really do. I mean, I let our boy Eazy-E, Egg Shin, Montalvo borrow the film a couple of years ago, and he really enjoyed it too. So yeah, great film. What's next?
Oh,
what have we got?
So it was my turn to share, and this is another movie I was really, really nervous to show you because, first of all, it's very long.
Oh, I know what this is.
First of all, it's very long.
Yeah.
Second of all, where at least Beauty and the Beast was very visual.
Yeah.
and the visuals could keep you going. This movie had atmosphere, but nothing happens in this movie.
Yeah, speaking of nothing happens.
This was like, nothing happens. Like, I had to warn you. I've been warning you about this movie for years. It's like, listen, I saw this movie when I was a teenager, but the only thing it had going for it was the director.
Yeah.
Okay? But this was a
One
movie.
of the greats.
This was a movie where, listen.
Were you more nervous to show me this than Beauty and the Beast?
I was kind of, I think this one.
Okay.
Because it was longer than Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
Where Beauty and the Beast was like pushing 2 hours.
Yeah.
This movie was way over 2 hours. Like this movie was like 2 hours 10.
Yeah.
Where at least Beauty and the Beast again was visual and the pacing was a little bit quicker. This movie was just like all you have is atmosphere and then nothing going on.
Right.
But I was hoping that the atmosphere and some of the performances, especially one in particular, would at least be enough to keep you going.
Yes.
Because I knew you were a fan of the director, but the movie itself, it's just like, I don't know how he's going to take it, but I've been warning you about this for years.
You think I was going to be asleep? Start snoring?
I was thinking maybe, because again, this is one of those movies where even I can't explain to you why I like it so much.
Right.
Because I first saw this movie back in the day when I was like, again, when I was a teenager, back in the day, believe it or not, kids, American AMC used to be called American Movie Classics. That was the long version of the channel. And American Movie Classics actually used to show movies. And what I mean by movies, they actually used to show movies, like older films. Like this is where I saw The King and I for the first time. This is where I saw The Ghost of Mrs. Muir, Anne and the King of Siam, uncut. A lot of times I would see these movies in their original widescreen format, and they would have these random, marathons. They would show movies where they were in their entirety, commercial free, unedited, and they would have backgrounds on them, histories, documentaries, and all that. And this is where I saw the film that I was on the fence about showing you, but I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And this is, again, another Criterion release. And so I was like, fuck it, let's do it. Let's do it. So I finally showed you Alfred Hitchcock's 1940 Rebecca.
1940 Rebecca.
1940.
Yes.
So
now this one's a little different because this one I have not really seen a lot of Laurence
Olivier.
Yeah, I have really not seen a lot of his movies.
Yeah.
I remember him in Spartacus, which is another classic. And I think I've seen him here and there, but I don't really remember him as an actor. Yeah. Except for Spartacus.
Yeah, he's one of those where because he was a huge stage and screen presence.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I could tell.
Sir Laurence Olivier, like massive back in the day.
But I could see it, though.
But it was, again, probably similar to Paul Newman, where, you know who he is, you've just never really...
I knew he was a legend of the game.
Yeah, but you've just never really, seen him in anything yet, except for Spartacus.
I was patient with the film.
I'm so sorry. I know. I can't tell you. I know.
No. I was patient with the movie, but there's a difference between being patient and being bored. I was never bored. I was just patient. And I was just kind of like, the lead female was kind of cute. She was kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
But Laurence Olivier, man, that guy.
Yeah.
How many chicks threw panties at him back in the day?
Right? Fun fact, he was married to Scarlett O'Hara.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What was her name?
I can't think of her name.
Vivian Lee?
Sure.
Yeah.
I can't really remember her, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was seeing a little bit of Timothy Dalton there.
Yeah.
In him. I could see it a little bit there.
And he wasn't too pleased with the casting of Joan Fontaine, because he wanted Vivian Lee in the part.
Oh.
So there was a little bit of, but they wanted somebody that was younger and was going to play the part a certain way.
Right.
She
was perfectly casted.
Yeah.
She was so perfectly casted that I was getting annoyed.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, oh my God.
Doormat.
Yeah, but it fit the movie. So I'll let you explain the plot so people know what we're talking about.
So basically you've got this girl.
I mean, the movie's been out forever. We can do spoilers.
Yeah.
It's fine.
You've got this girl, and she's very young, and she's a paid companion to this older rich lady, and
who was driving me nuts.
Yeah, and who thinks like the world of herself.
Yeah.
And they're in, what is it, Monte Carlo, and she meets this older rich guy, and there's like this, not, you really wouldn't think it was a whirlwind romance with the way it's so one-sided. Like, she's obviously crushing on him.
Yeah.
But he's keeping her at a distance. And the old lady finds out that her daughter's going to get married, and so she's like, well, we got to go back to the States so I can, prepare for my daughter's wedding and all that. And so and this is only like a couple of days, maybe 2 weeks, I don't even know.
Yeah.
And so the girl, who's probably like 20 or whatever, goes up to the rich dude's place and it's like, hey, I got to go. And he's like, hey, let's get married. And this whole time you always get this awkward, he's totally keeping her at a distance.
Yeah.
And you don't know why.
Yeah.
And so she's clearly in love with this guy, but
Yeah.
you don't really know how he feels. You can see that he kind of like has some kind of affection for her, but you don't know why he's keeping her at so much of a distance.
He's at I know status. He's at Han Solo status.
But even then, Han Solo had at least more warmth.
That's true.
And emotion.
That's true.
Like this guy is just like, he'll snap at the drop of a hat and you don't know why. Like he just has these moments of anger and this and that.
You find out later why.
Yeah. But at first you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And so they get quick married. She leaves the old lady and they go back to Mandalay. Right. Which is the home of Maxim de Winter, who has this ridiculously long name, but they call him Maxim.
Yeah.
And
that was one of my favorite scenes in the movie that I remember was when he takes her to the mansion.
Yeah.
Fucking Wayne Manor.
Right.
Shit.
Right.
Make Wayne Manor look like a condo.
They get to the house and he starts introducing her to the staff because this guy is like richer than God. And she gets introduced to the head of staff, who is Mrs. Danvers.
Yes.
Played by Dame Judith Anderson.
And in my opinion...
And I know what's coming, because...
In my opinion, the star of the film.
I mean...
The real star of the movie.
Like...
The treat.
Like, for me, like, I've seen this movie several times in the space of, I don't know, 20 years or whatever. And every time I watch this movie, I am always glued to Danny.
Yeah.
To Mrs. Danvers.
Yes.
And there's a reason for that. And so the movie starts to unfold, and you start to realize how much you start to hear about the late Mrs. De Winter, whose name was Rebecca. And it was always the late Mrs. De Winter was just she was so accomplished and learned, and Maxim adored her.
It was so over the top and ridiculous from every single person telling stories of how great Rebecca was.
Yes.
That it was like driving. I was like, dude, I was expecting Danny, right?
Yes.
I was expecting to go up to Joan Fontaine and be like, some days I would feed her pinto beans, and the smell of her farts were heavenly. They smelled like roses.
Yeah.
Do your farts smell like roses?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so ridiculous.
So eventually early on you find out obviously that Rebecca has died, and then eventually, soon you find out that she died in a boating accident. And the story unfolds, and you just get this, you get the layout of the house, and the house is very grand and it's very beautiful. And the new Mrs. De Winters,
Joan Fontaine.
Right. The new Mrs. De Winters is trying to get her footing, and she just never really seems to get her place in things, and she just feels so overwhelmed and this and that.
She can't even bring herself to tell Butler what to do.
Yeah, she leaves everything in the hands of Danny. She says, I'm sure whatever you decide will be fine.
And Danny's just not having it.
Danny looks at her in every scene
Disgust.
with just like this, her nose
Loathing.
is just like,
She does what she says.
Yeah, of course.
But...
Of course she does. And then slowly you start to find out that Danny was like Rebecca's personal maid, and she adored Rebecca, and she would wait up for her late at night when she would go out, and
to the point of creepiness.
Yes.
You find out she's obsessed. She was obsessed.
She would lay out her lingerie for her. She loved her see-through black lingerie. There's all these discussions about the undertones of that's going on with that and all that.
And a couple of times she made attempts to make Joan Fontaine look bad.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
There was like at one point she the kind of like the highlight midpoint of the film is where Joan Fontaine's character eventually kind of gets the balls to say, look, because at one point she answers the phone and they ask for Mrs. De Winter's approval on something, and Joan Fontaine goes, oh no, there must be a mistake. Mrs. De Winters has been dead for several months now. And she hangs up and she goes, oh wait, no, not realizing that, oh wait, yeah, I'm Mrs. De Winter.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the sign, oh shit, what am I doing here? And so later on in the movie, she kind of gets her balls back and she's like, look, I'm Mrs. De Winter now. Get rid of all of Rebecca's stationery. I'm the head of the household.
Yeah.
And she tells Danny, get rid of all this stuff. I'm boss now. And you think that that's that. You think that that's what's going to happen. And so Joan Fontaine decides she wants to throw this giant masquerade ball like they used to do in the old days. And she wants to plan everything herself with no help from Maxim or anything like that. And Danny gives her the suggestion to design her dress in the style of a family portrait that's in the hall that's Maxim's favorite, and she designs it on her own and this and that, and then she does the big reveal in the ball,
comes down the staircase
all dramatic like before all the guests arrive.
Yeah.
And Maxim turns around and there's this look of just utter contempt on his face, and this look of horror comes over Joan Fontaine's face of like, oh god, what have I done? And she's like, what is it? And he goes, what the hell are you doing? Take that ridiculous thing off. Get out of here. Just change into anything before the guests arrive. And she runs up the stairs. She sees Danny. She runs after Danny, who's in Rebecca's room. And she goes, you knew that this was something Rebecca did. Why would you do this? And she says, I saw you walk down the stairs. You couldn't hold a candle to her. So basically, she tricked Mrs. De Winter into dressing up like Rebecca just to fuck with her and basically get back at her for trying to take Rebecca's place.
Yeah.
And she
which
fucks with her.
Which leads us to one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Fucks with her to the point where Joan Fontaine is broken down and crying.
Yeah, at this point.
And is just crying on Rebecca's bed. And Danny knows she's broken her. She knows she has her.
At first, I thought when she snuck in. At first, I thought that she's trying to help her and open up the window to get some air into the room.
Right.
Maybe to help comfort.
Right.
Joan Fontaine, right?
But nay. She basically tries to talk her into jumping to her death.
Yeah.
And
it was brilliant.
Listen,
the slow leap. So
yes.
Rebecca's at the edge of the window looking down.
It would be so Mrs. De Winter.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It would be so easy, wouldn't it? Just look outside. It would be so easy just to jump. And she is about to jump out. Mrs. De Winter, Joan Fontaine at this point is about to jump, and then suddenly a flare pops into the sky. And basically they find the wreckage of Rebecca's boat, and this whole inquest is reopened up because what you come to find out is that Maxim identified a body about a year ago thinking it was Rebecca's, but it wasn't Rebecca's. He knew it wasn't Rebecca's body. There was this whole thing where Rebecca had been cheating on him.
Yeah.
And
this part of the movie blew my mind.
Okay.
Because the whole movie I was kind of like, the way Mr. Olivier's acting, did he kill her?
Right.
Did he murder his wife?
Right.
Right? And then marry Joan Fontaine just to get a quick,
Right.
So, shh. No one will say anything. But this part blew my mind when you find out, spoiler alert, sorry, you find out that Rebecca was one of the most horrible people.
Right.
If you really knew her,
right.
People from the outside, her fart smells like roses.
Right.
But she was horrible.
Like the minute she married him.
Yeah.
She came right out and told him, I'll make you a deal. I will make you the most well-known man in the world, and I'll make it look good, but you're gonna put up with everything because you're either gonna deal with it or you're gonna have to admit that this is a sham of a marriage because she found out everything about how terrible she was and all that.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. I was like, what?
Because he actually hated her.
She was terrible. Yeah, he hated her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From almost like the second they would like the couple of days that they were married, he found out everything about her.
Because earlier you're like, oh, he can't walk down to the dock because that's where she
Right,
died.
right.
Or in the waters, you know, that's where the ship
Right.
was because he loved her so much.
Right.
He just fucking hated her.
And you think he
I
can't-
couldn't. He just could not stand to be around that kind of shit.
You
Take
think-
off that fucking dress.
Right. You think
know.
he can't be close to Joan Fontaine because
He's still in love with her.
Right.
Right.
That's what you're debating.
That, I
this
was
whole
just
time.
like, whoa.
Now, we won't talk about the book because I'm not 100% clear on certain particulars of the book. Now, I do know that he did kill her in the book. In the book. He
Because
did.
she was evil?
It was... again,
Or was he evil?
I don't think he was evil in the book. But she was the same character in the book. She was the same...
So he killed her because she was evil.
It was like a heated thing where she wanted him to kill her.
Oh.
But he did end up killing her.
Right,
But he
right.
changed certain things in the movie.
Okay.
For certain reasons. And it wasn't
Right.
a pre-code thing. It wasn't anything like that. But
Still,
he did.
you know, classic Alfred Hitchcock directing. I was
Yeah.
not expecting that twist.
And I did enjoy how when he's telling her all of this in the boathouse, how you see the camera as he's telling the story about how Rebecca's not there, but he's shooting it as if she were there.
Yeah.
And then the whole scene where he struck her and she looks like triumphant and all that, and then she falls and she hits her head on the. You don't see anything; she's not
Right,
there, obviously,
right, right.
but he films it as if she were there.
Yeah,
It's a very interesting reversal of show don't tell because obviously
Yeah.
she's not there.
Right.
We're being told it and we're being half shown it because she's not there. But
it's Hitchcock. It's
Yeah.
the master.
in 1940 of all,
yeah,
you know, is
1940.
such early work from him.
So we just go straight to the ending and talk about what happened to Danny, or should we leave that up to
Well-
people who have never seen the film?
I mean, we've already talked about just about everything so
Yeah.
far. So the inquest is opened up, and you know, there's the whole panic of they're gonna think Maxton murdered her because he covered up the murder. He covered up the suicide /
Right.
accidental death because
Right.
it wasn't really a suicide, but he didn't kill her, but he also covered it up.
Right.
When she fell and hit her head and died, he panicked. He threw her body onto her boat
Right.
and then put holes into the boat so that it would sink.
Right,
and then he
right.
found another body, identified it as hers, and then the whole matter would be closed. And then
Yeah.
they found her boat, found her body, and then everybody was just going to assume that he murdered her.
Right.
And then you found out that she was fucking her cousin, who thought that she was pregnant with
Ill.
his child.
Ill.
Well, that's, got to keep it in the family, right? And so the cousin comes around, and played by George Sanders, who was another actor back in the day, who was very, very flamboyant character in real life back in the day. And he's trying to get Maxim buried into it, and he's in league with Danny, and they're trying to, basically get Maxim put away for it, and trying to push blackmail onto him and everything. And but basically it all works out to where they realize that Rebecca, the inquiry finds out that Rebecca had cancer, and so it was likely a suicide. So you don't really find out that Maxim covered anything up. So Maxim is cleared of all wrongdoing. So everybody just assumes, oh, she killed herself. So that's all taken care of. But Maxim sends Joan Fontaine character home back to Mandalay. And so George Sanders' character calls Danny at the house and is like, hey, it was a suicide. She was holding out on us. She had cancer. So, yeah, Maxim's clear. Everyone's going to get what they want. Happy ending for everybody except for us. So, see you later, Danny. So, Maxim's driving home with his friend. And he sees this huge light over by Mandalay. And he's like, it's way too early for the sun to be coming up.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, shit, my house is on fire.
The manor, yeah.
So
Yeah,
basically,
mansion.
Danny says, oh, well, fuck this. Y'all ain't having your happy ending. And she torches Mandalay.
And I love her face. I love the glorious,
Yeah.
bug-eyed, super Joker smile.
Yeah.
While she's standing there in the flames, and the
Yeah.
house but the mansion basically falls on her.
Yeah, so everybody gets out.
Yeah, that was great.
Mrs. De Winter gets out. Everybody gets out. The staff get out, except for Danny, who dies in the rubble of flaming Mandalay.
But Danny's the best part of the film.
She really is.
She's the reason to watch the movie. And, I was right.
What?
As soon as she showed up in the movie, and as soon as I heard her voice,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, was she into the Ten Commandments?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So she was in the Ten Commandments.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
figures, right?
playing a very similar kind of imposing character.
Really?
Right?
Well, that was a voice.
Nefertiti in that movie ended up murdering her.
Oh.
Yeah, because she was getting in the way.
Ah.
But yeah, I was just like, that. She sounds so familiar. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
I'm glad.
Oh, the best part was the fun fact you shared with me after the movie. You remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this blew my mind. So go ahead.
So I pointed out, I asked you, so what was Joan Fontaine's character's name?
And I was trying to think.
Uh-huh.
Like, did I miss it?
Yeah.
I couldn't think.
So Rebecca's presence is so overpowering in the film.
Right.
Joan Fontaine's character is never given a name. And it's like that in the book.
And now?
In a totally accidental move, we ended up going to another Alfred Hitchcock film
Yes.
that you've been wanting to show me forever.
One of my favorites. I used to watch this with my family a lot. We used to watch this movie a lot. And it was one of those movies where, I was young when I saw it. And it was one of those, oh no. My parents want to show me an old movie. Yeah. Before back when I was an idiot. And before I appreciated,
black and white movies.
Oh.
Gross.
God. But yeah, they sat me down and showed me a little film called Rear Window. That was kind of remade a little bit, was starring Shia LaBeouf in a film called Disturbia. I believe it's Disturbia. I'm not positive, but I think that's what it was called. Which was a big hit, by the way. When did Rear Window come out?
1954.
1954. We are in the 50s now. And I regret watching it. It sucked.
Yeah.
I think it was a piece of garbage.
That was one of the dumbest, cheapest.
And again, it's one of those movies I watched young. I thought was good.
I bet
now
you
that
did.
I'm an adult now,
You're a chump, man.
I'm watching it again, and
What
I
a
was just
hack
like, "This is
fraud
garbage."
Alfred Hitchcock was.
No, again. I mean, it was fun revisiting it again because I haven't seen it in years.
Yeah.
And I bought the steelbook for it, and I popped it in. It was like perfect timing. Let's keep the old school movie night going. And what did you think?
Okay, so I had a feeling that I knew what the concept of Rear Window was going to be because I had never seen it, but it was one of those things where I think I knew the premise. So I knew going in what to expect, but what I wasn't expecting was how much voyeurism we ended up getting, and not in a bad way, because what I really ended up liking was just how much of the neighbors we got to watch.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed.
It's almost we got to know them.
Yeah, like through Jimmy Stewart's like watching all of the lives of everybody like every day constantly.
Yeah.
Like
because he's wheelchair bound.
Yeah, he has a broken leg.
Right.
And he's reliant
He's
on...
a photographer.
Yeah, he's a photographer. And so he's just like, he spends all day looking out his window, which is adjacent to these apartment complexes where all these people live out their lives with their windows open and they don't give a shit about who can watch them. And so there's like these multiple windows, and then you can see out this alley that goes into this street and to this building across the street. And so you've got like a couple of windows across, and then another window like to his left, and there's like a couple of people in there, and he just spends like all his time watching all these people, and every single set of windows has like their own set of lives going on. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed that. Yeah. And I don't know why. Yeah. It was so weird, but I really liked the look of the movie.
Yeah.
Like it was clearly a set. It was clearly like this closed artificial set, but it added to the charm of the film.
Yeah.
And that could just be like my love of older things, like especially older cinema, and how again
it was still convincing though.
Again, going back to
worked.
like the Wizard of Oz, when you see stuff like that, it just looks like craftsmanship to me. That's what that set looked like to me. It just looked like a lot of work because they're all going on simultaneously most of the time. A lot of these things, they're happening at the same time. So there was a lot of coordination going on for these scenes. Yeah. And I really like that too.
It's just even though it's the same area, him looking across to the other apartment complexes, it's so well directed.
Yeah.
Like I can't even fathom how he did it.
Yeah.
Like, just, okay, we're gonna, and well edited as well.
Yeah.
I just don't see a movie like that now.
Yeah.
You know,
it was.
But you have the young girl who's an aspiring dancer that had had the
what
little,
do they call her? The torso or something like that.
Torso.
Yeah.
We had the sad older lady who was having relationship problems. You know, we had the one really bad artiste, older lady.
Yeah.
We had the lady who the one couple that kept always slept outside,
and they had the dog in the basket.
Yeah.
All of that.
But you can remember these characters because we did spend time with them.
They had the newlywed couple,
right?
That
were they fucking
that just spent all week fucking. And then it seemed like at one point they were already sick of each other, but they still just spent all day fucking. Yeah. And then they had the piano player, the aspiring piano player that seemed like his life was going up and down.
Yeah.
Who kind of seemed like he ended up with the lonely lady at the end.
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit.
It was his tune that kept the lonely lady going.
Yeah, because she almost killed herself by the end of the movie. That was a major plot point.
Yeah.
And then obviously Stewart has his relationship with Grace Kelly's character.
Uh-huh.
Who's like
another attractive lady,
super rich socialite.
Yeah, is she British?
I don't think she was British.
Okay.
Well, I have to look into that.
All right. Anyway,
and then obviously the main focal point of these neighbors is someone that I'll never look at the same way again. Perry Mason.
Yeah, Perry Mason.
Mr. Raymond Burr. Jesus.
Yeah, we're not.
Mr. Raymond.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, you creep me out, Burr, which it's like he's so unassuming, and it wasn't even like the traditional superimposing I'm gonna creep you out. It was a very silent, under like menacing, but not in the traditional menacing because you don't know.
Yeah.
You never really, and at one point you don't even know what's really going on,
right?
Because all you know is that he has this sick wife.
Yes.
This bedridden wife.
Yes.
You hear a scream.
Very needy.
You hear, you hear, you know that they're having marital relationship issues because Jimmy Stewart's watching this whole time.
Yeah.
You hear a scream at one point.
Yeah.
Stewart hears a scream. He looks around. He doesn't see anything. And then all of a sudden, no more wife. And then all of a sudden, you see the bed mattress rolled up in Mason's apartment. Yeah. And then just no more wife. And then you see him start to move things out of the apartment.
Many slowly. Trips out late at night.
Very
with
late
a suitcase.
Yes.
A large suitcase full of who knows what.
Right. You see all these things. You see all these suspicious activities. And meanwhile, Stewart's very bored.
Yeah.
He's got time to put all these things together that could be this, that, or the other. And of course, Mason's Perry Mason, Raymond Burr's character has got all these answers to this and that and the other. Yeah. And he's a jeweler, and he's got he's got the suitcase full of jewels and all that.
Yeah, because Perry Mason has his detective friend of his. I'm sorry, Perry Mason.
Stewart.
Stewart has his detective friend of his. He keeps calling. He's like, I think he's doing this.
Yeah.
I think he planted something where the plants are, and maybe there's a finger down there. We don't know.
The dog's sniffing at the flowers at one point, and then Grace Kelly is coming in, and she's like trying to get in on it because she's
kind of cracking me up a little bit.
She's like completely head over heels in love with Stewart's character,
and he's an idiot.
And he's like, lady. Look, you're cute and all, but, you're just too high class for me because I like to live in the trenches. What are you and your frilly manicured nails going to do when I'm living in the trenches and you've got like 10 suitcases of stuff, and how are you going to live in the...
He was being a dick a little bit.
It's like, Jim, you're like 50 and you got a 20-year-old socialite trying to suck that? Are you fucking...
Thank you for the imagery, babe. That's what I want to see. Now I'm thinking of old man Jimmy Stewart sausage.
I'm just being realistic here. I am being completely realistic here. I'm like, are you seriously balking at the idea that this young... firm blonde wants to hit that.
Keep going, baby.
I don't think you can hang with this as like, sweetie, she would probably annihilate you in the sack. And you're worried about her not being able to keep up with you in the trenches.
An attractive woman that actually makes a lot of money. What are you doing?
And you're
Stuart,
like worried that
stop
she's
complaining.
not gonna, fit in with your lifestyle. It's like, oh, you're just worried that you're not gonna be able to live up to her performance needs in bed. That's what's really going on.
Again, thank you for the imagery.
You are so welcome.
Of Jimmy Stewart noodle.
Anytime.
I appreciate the noodle imagery.
And so you got that whole thing on, but she's like willing to go like the extra
She was
mile.
all in.
She
put herself at risk.
She like eventually gets into the apartment. She's like climbing.
That was a great scene.
Scaling the balcony, trying to get in, like climbing the windows. She might have done her own stunt at one point.
She was trying to get in Raymond Burr's apartment.
Yeah. Towards later on, towards the end of the film, she like gets caught in the apartment at one point, which was a really great scene because you're seeing it all from Stewart's window. You never ever.
He's freaking out.
And what I also find interesting is that you never. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you ever leave his apartment in the film?
No.
You never leave the apartment, right?
No, I don't think so.
You're always there.
Uh-huh.
So because I know that whole scene where she's in Raymond Burr's apartment,
right.
You see it all from his perspective.
Right.
So you see the whole scene where she's rummaging through the bedroom looking for the evidence and all that, and you see Raymond Burr coming up the stairs and coming up to the apartment, and Jimmy Stewart and his massage therapist is freaking out like, oh my god, what do we do? And then she realizes that he's coming up the stairs and she tries to hide, and she gets caught, and Raymond Burr goes after her. You see all that from Stewart's perspective. And I'm thinking, now that I think about it,
you only see the outside of Stewart's window at the end. Yeah. When the detectives show up. When he's hanging.
Right.
That's the only time.
And that really goofy, really cute, old-fashioned composited shot when he falls. But
that's fine.
You can forgive it because it's old. Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, we never leave his apartment in the film.
No.
I'm trying to think.
No.
I might be wrong.
No, because we when you look at the street, that one little tiny sliver of street that you could see, that's as far as it goes.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, so you never really leave that environment.
No.
But you never, camera-wise, it's not like you ever travel into these people's apartments. Like I said, that one scene where Grace Kelly gets caught by Raymond Burr, you see all of that from Stewart's apartment and their perspective.
Yeah.
So
his caretaker cracked me up too.
Yeah, she was a fun. Because
at first she was like, "I don't want a part of this.
Yeah.
You're an idiot.
And then she
what are you doing with your life?"
And she's like digging the flowers out with Grace Kelly's character, and she's like,
maybe there's fingers in the garden. Huh?
Yeah,
fingers in the garden.
She's like running after the moving van trying to find the license plate. She's like all into it too, and shit.
It was fun.
And again, at first you don't really know.
You don't.
If Raymond Burr is involved in it, and then
because even Stewart's detective friend gave up.
Yeah, he's like, dude,
this guy's clean.
Yeah, you're fucking high, and you're just making shit up. You got nothing better to do.
He put his wife on a train.
Yeah,
he's gonna meet with her.
She wrote a letter. She wrote a letter, quote unquote, saying that they came back and that she's fine and blah blah blah. And so he gave up on him, and so eventually, obviously, he starts fucking with Raymond Burr and is like, hey, I know what you did. And so he he like called him? Did he call?
He called him
right?
on the phone.
Yeah. And it ends up resulting in Raymond Burr finds out who called him because at one point when Grace Kelly gets caught, she like yells out his name.
She does that, but it's the scene where she finds the wedding ring.
Right.
The wife's wedding ring. And the murdered wife. And she has it behind her back.
Yeah.
And she's signaling, that she has it.
Yeah.
And then you get that great shot.
He looks over.
Yeah, you get that great shot of Raymond Burr looking up right at Stewart. And Stewart's like, oh shit, get back. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, and again, and Raymond Burr's got this look, this whole film.
He's Perry Mason, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's always a nice guy.
He's got like these glasses.
But in this movie,
frosted grayish white hair.
Yeah.
And again, he has this look where you wouldn't at first visually peg him to be intimidating and unassuming.
Yeah.
But it's when he's looking at you.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and even then, it's not until like when he actually comes up and confronts Jimmy Stewart.
You get a close up of him,
Yeah, and then it's like, oh god.
Yeah, and but just really great. Before we even get to the finale, really great directing. I think one of my favorite moments early on in the movie when there's Stewart's discussing with his tag team members, Grace Kelly and the caretaker. Yeah, I think this is happening. I think this is going on, and they're looking across, in the Raymond Burr's apartment. And all the lights are out, and all you see is the cigarette. All you see is the cigarette light.
Yeah.
And then you see a cigarette light come on and disappear. So you don't know if he's looking at him or not. You don't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
But that stuff, that is like great directing, man. That is like, holy shit. But yeah, he knows where Jimmy Stewart is. He's coming.
Yeah.
And the finale was just, again, it's the master, well-crafted directing. You have no music.
Yeah.
And you have footsteps. You hear footsteps coming up.
Yeah.
To Stewart, coming up the steps, coming down the hallway, and you hear the door click. And he opens the door slowly. And he slowly comes in. And a shadowy figure at first until you see him in light. And it's like you said, his eyes, that look. Right? Subtle. Not like, I'm a big guy. I'm a slasher guy now.
Yeah, it's
blah, 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 blah,
very, very under, low play. Like, not even
it's like, I'm going to kill you now. You forced me to kill you. Kind of look.
Yeah.
And he was just saying, what do you want? I have no money. Or he asked him, is it money? What do you want? And a great shot of Stewart in the shadows, because he's backed up. So he's kind of a little mysterious from Perry Mason's perspective. You don't know what, right?
Yeah.
But obviously he can still tell he's wheelchair bound. And then Stewart has nothing. All he has is his camera. And he puts on the flash lens.
Yeah.
And every time Perry Mason would come forward to get him, he'd, take the picture. And it would kind of blind Perry Mason for a few seconds. And then he'd take his glasses off. And then he'd come again. Until he finally grabs Stewart. And this is where you remember, even though sometimes he plays annoying characters, he's still a living legend. And this is why he's a living legend. Him freaking out and screaming the way he did it just shows you how great Jimmy Stewart is as an actor.
Yeah.
Because you can't, that is literal realistic panic.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, oh no, or ah. He was just like, you can tell because he can't fight back.
Yeah.
He has no legs.
Yeah.
So all he has is his arms, and Raymond Burr is grabbing him, slowly struggling with him to try to throw him out the window.
Yeah.
And Stewart's acting right there is like, this guy's fucking scared out of his mind.
Yeah.
Like, this is just mwah. I mean, this is good shit.
Right.
And then luckily the detective and everyone shows up to stop Raymond Burr, but Stewart still falls.
Yeah.
But luckily...
And breaks his other leg.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
His one leg was like a week, just a couple days out of its cat. It was supposed to be a couple weeks away from... When the beginning of the film, it stated his leg is 1 week away from being out of the cast.
Yeah.
And then this movie happens over the course of a couple of days. So you figure by the end of the film, his leg is due out of the cast at any day now.
Yeah.
So at this point, he now has 2 casts on. He probably re-broke his other leg and now broke his second leg.
Yeah.
So now he's back in the cast, but now he's like making out all slobber knocker like with Grace Kelly.
Yeah,
so,
he's not fucking around
So
anymore.
he's hitting that.
Yeah. With the wet, shriveled up noodle.
Yes.
That you have now put in my head. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
You're wrong.
But yeah, classic film.
Yeah.
I can watch it 1,000,000,000 times.
Again, another one of those where after I saw it, I was like, totally get it.
Aha.
Totally get it.
And now, last but not least.
So this was the film where neither of us had seen this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of jarring because we went from...
Fat Ninja's been telling me about this for a long time.
Yeah.
He's like, you gotta see this movie, man.
And it was funny because we went from 4K Wizard of Oz, which looked fantastic.
Yeah.
We went 2 Criterion films, which were black and white, so they
still look good.
pretty good.
Because it's Criterion.
And then we had 1 black and white and 1 color, which there was only 1 scene in Rear Window that looked really shitty.
Yeah.
And then everything looked great.
Yeah,
And
it was good enough.
We don't know what happened
Yeah.
to that 1 scene, but aside from that, it looked pretty good.
Yeah.
And the Hustler looked pretty good.
It's black and white, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it does matter, but when it's black and white, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
And then we went to this Blu-ray, which was a very old Blu-ray, so
Yeah.
it was jarring because it did not look that great.
Yeah, I was like, what is this, DVD?
Yeah. But
it did not detract from our enjoyment of it.
Neither of us had seen this.
No.
And
heard about it for years.
Was 1963, directed by John Sturges, The Great Escape.
Yes. Starring my boy, Steve McQueen. That's right. The Getaway Son, Bullet, Magnificent Seven, which is a fun fact you just told me. You want to talk about that?
Oh, yeah. So apparently director John Sturges directed The Magnificent Seven, which was a remake of Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai.
Mm-hmm.
And John Sturges got to meet Akira Kurosawa, who told John Sturges that he loved The Magnificent Seven. Mm-hmm. And John Sturges reportedly said that as a filmmaker, that was the proudest moment in his career, which I thought was very sweet.
That is awesome.
Which is great to hear that both directors were very respectful towards each other, because that doesn't always happen. But anyway, that was very nice to know.
You know, the beginning of the movie kind of threw me off, and you know why? It was because of the iconic score, the theme of the movie.
I guess we didn't know what it was
from. So iconic that I was like, oh man, I remember this theme. I've heard of this theme, but I didn't know it was from The Great Escape.
Right.
But it kind of threw me off because I was kind of like, oh, is this a comedy?
Right.
I was like, is this a military comedy?
Yeah.
Because it was kind of had a light little, you know, it kind of had that kind of feel tone to it.
Yeah.
So I was like, is this a comedy?
And tonally, this movie does kind of venture in that direction a couple of times.
There's some funny moments,
which I thought was an odd choice,
right?
Given the subject matter,
right.
because
or lighthearted.
Essentially, this is a POW film.
Yeah, prisoners of war.
This is a film.
World War II.
World War II. You got this prisoners of war, which is loosely based on a true story, where you've got these prisoners of war who come up with this escape plan. And the initial primary objective is to escape.
Yes.
But, and they do state this in the film, it's to escape, but also their secondary goal is to tie up the Nazi resources so that they're so busy trying to catch the escapees that they're diverted from the war effort also. So that was kind of like it's like a bonus, like icing on the cake. So they want to escape, obviously, because you don't want to be locked up in a prisoner of war camp, but they also wanted to kind of like throw a wrench in the war machine, which I thought was a very interesting thing to have be their secondary goal. So obviously, for dramatic effect, you've got the American actors. Steve McQueen's character was based on a couple of different people, but not Americans.
James Coburn,
right,
playing an
Aussie,
an Aussie guy.
It was very odd.
Charles Bronson, which freaked you out, but because he looked normal.
I'm not used to Charles Bronson playing normal, pleasant people. I thought he was given a very interesting quirk. Yeah. He ended up being claustrophobic.
Yeah, claustrophobic.
Which was very, very interesting, especially given the position he was.
Yeah, had to dig tunnels.
Throwing himself into. Like, he ended up throwing himself into a tunnel to save somebody, and then at one point he's in the tunnel and he's just like, I can't do this anymore, which is very interesting.
Yeah. Donald Pleasance.
Donald Pleasance is in it. What's that?
And our boy, it was kind of his whole plan to begin with, to try to help get this escape plan together.
Richard Attenborough. John Hammond from Jurassic Park. Yes. For some of you younglings.
Yes.
You might not even know.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Right, which has been bastardized into another franchise now. But anyway. And also, what's his name? That other guy.
Who were you forgetting?
That one guy that other guy that had the TV show. The other guy that had the TV show. Oh my god.
The other guy that had the TV show.
Dude, the other American. Oh my god.
Which had a TV show?
Yeah, he had a TV show. It was oh my god. I can't believe I'm totally drawing a blank here. Give me a sec.
Well, while she's searching for that,
yeah.
The funny thing is, we saw a sliver scene from this movie in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, when Leonardo DiCaprio's character was trying out for the role that Steve McQueen actually ended up getting. So they superimposed Leonardo DiCaprio in a scene from The Great Escape, which was kind of funny. We got a kick out of it. But yeah, that was the first time we saw anything.
Did you mention him already? James Garner.
Oh, James Garner.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, yeah, he was the guy.
The Rockford Files.
Yeah.
That show.
Right.
Which I could not remember. Anyway.
But yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So the show, I mean, the movie kind of starts off kind of comically, because it, like, already starts off with, okay, cooler. Like, we're already setting up that Steve McQueen's, like, this character where he's just, like, no shit's...
thrown in the hole.
No shit's given,
you know.
Yeah. And they
who's had a history of escaping prisons before.
Yeah. Him and the Scottish guy, I think he was Scottish.
Yeah.
And they have this kind of, like, early relationship set up where they both kind of keep getting thrown in the cooler, and they have their own plan to escape. But in the meantime, you've got Attenborough and his crew, and they're coming up with a heavy-hitting plan.
Right.
They're the ones that come up with all the tunnel plans to escape.
Digging the tunnels.
Yeah.
And had great cover-up plans as well.
Yeah. And it's...
in case one of the tunnels gets found out, they had backups.
Yeah. And they've got them throughout different points of the camp and different areas of the camp. And McQueen and the Scottish guy make a couple of attempts. They get caught every time they come back. They get sent to the cooler. And at one point, the Scottish guy, he just loses it.
Yeah,
he's gotten too soured over it, and he eventually tries to kind of escape, but he knows what's going to happen, and he basically just says, "Screw this, I'm leaving," in front of everybody, and he gets killed. And so at this point, McQueen's just kind of like desperate, but also kind of like, shit, that sucks. And Attenborough goes to him and he's like, "Hey, you're going to keep escaping, right?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to keep trying to escape." He's like, "Well, how about if you try to escape, you get caught, but every time you go out, you start making maps for us." And McQueen at first is like, "Fuck you. I'm not going to do that." And eventually McQueen agrees to it. Right. It takes another time for him to get caught and get brought back. And eventually he starts going out, making maps of the area, and then coming back with the intel.
But some very fun, clever moments of them just covering up what they're doing.
Yeah.
Going out in the, outside, and they're like kicking the dirt from their pants.
Yeah. Yeah, they come up with all these different kinds of...
they're doing exercises, or they're doing a chorus. They're singing a men's choir.
Yeah, to cover up different things. And they got like the dirt in their socks. Like they have these contraptions in their pants to unload the dirt that they're bringing out from the different areas that they count.
Yeah, but like I said in the beginning, the tone was kind of lighthearted, a little funny, especially when our guys were... Well, first, the British soldier... I don't know, I forgot what rank he was, but he was the one meeting up with the warden of that prison. And he was basically telling them, "You know who you got here. All right, these boys are going to try to escape. So you already know this, because that's their job, right?
Right.
But it was kind of in a playful dialogue, and then they try to escape, and they get caught. Oops!
Yeah.
Oh, there's that Charles Bronson trying to get out, and it was that's why I was kind of like, is this kind of like a fun?
Is this Hogan's Heroes? It's like, what is this?
And then,
the
movie slaps us in the face and brings us back to reality. Spoiler alert: we're going to go into it here, but it's interesting because the whole time when you're thinking of the Great Escape, you're thinking of. Once they escape the prison, that's the Great Escape.
Yeah.
But what you don't know is the Great Escape is getting out of the fucking country.
Yeah.
That's the Great Escape.
Yeah.
And once they get out of there, I was, it's not like, oh, the movie's over. They escaped the prison. Yay. Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, they got to try to get out of the country, and they're hunted.
Yeah.
And this is where I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah,
this is getting dark now.
Well,
this is getting dark.
It was crazy because, first of all, now keep in mind, and this is something, if you've never seen the movie before, settle in, because this movie is almost 3 hours long.
Yeah.
And I'm talking, we're pushing.
It didn't feel long though.
It feels long, but in the way that you would expect it to, because you have a lot of characters.
Yeah.
And you have a lot going on. There's a
I
lot.
guess I mean I wasn't bored.
Yeah, that's what it's a lot of ground to cover. So it's not boring if you know what you're in for.
Right.
And the type of movie that you're watching. So it's not long in a bad way. And so you got to settle in, you got to be ready for it. So what I found really crazy was once they finally start getting out, the shit starts going down.
Yeah.
So they're in the tunnel. And they're trying to get a lot of people out. That's the goal, is to get like a couple of hundred people out.
Yeah.
And they get the power off, and the power comes back on. But they find out that the tunnel is too short.
It's too short.
They try to get the tunnel to go. There's like these set of woods outside of the camp. And so they want to get the tunnel out from underneath the border fence.
Yeah.
Into the woods, and that was the plan. But Steve McQueen, well, they find out, oh shit, Steve McQueen gets out and he's like, shit guys, we're like several feet short of the woods.
Yeah.
We're still in the eye line of the guards.
Right.
But if we do this right, we can bring one of you in like every so often, like when they're not looking, I'll give you the signal and then you can come through. Well, at one point they get the power off, and so people can come pouring in. But aside from that, it's like one person, like every couple of minutes. Well, at one point, power gets popped back on. Somebody gets impatient.
Yeah.
Because you got this one guard that walks right up to the tunnel hole, and he's like looking and looking and looking. And this one dude, he gets impatient, and he jumps up, and the guard sees him. And so that cuts off their escape plan. So only like 70 some odd people end up making it out.
Right.
And so
they were expecting what, 200?
They were expecting, like a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
So you got Steve McQueen gets out, Richard Attenborough gets out,
James
Coburn gets out,
Bronson.
Charles Bronson gets out.
Your boy
Man from Uncle.
The Man from Uncle.
I can't remember his name. I'm sorry. He gets out. James Garner gets out. Donald Pleasance gets out. So they get out. A couple of other, no-namers.
Garner.
Yeah, James. Yeah, a couple of other no-namers people.
Kind of sucked about Pleasance's character.
Yeah.
Slowly going blind.
Yeah, he started, but by the time he gets out, he's like almost completely blind. But anyway.
Yeah, go ahead.
So they all get out, but it was a lot less than what they wanted. But they do end up tying up people in the escape in the escape process. Because they're getting hunted.
Yeah.
So it was like, so the escape itself was nerve-wracking because of the shortage, and that was actually something that really happened.
Right.
The tunnel was short of the woods.
Right.
Which was crazy. But so they're running, and they're fleeing the pursuit and all that, and so they all have to splinter off into groups. Or not necessarily to groups, but they're all splintering off and trying to just make their escape.
Some get lucky, like Coburn, and they meet up with the resistance that kind of sneaks them out.
Yeah, which I found
Bronson
that was kind of a funny. I don't know if it was meant to be funny, but it was kind of a funny scene.
When they got mowed down, the German soldiers got mowed down.
Yeah, he ends up at this like cafe, this outdoor cafe, and you've got these two German soldiers sitting at the table. And Coburn's sitting there, and then you got the two dudes at the
bartenders.
Counter at the cafe or whatever.
Yeah.
And
they're all like, such and such, you got a phone call.
Yeah.
And they're signaling Coburn.
And then they both hide behind the counter, and Coburn's like, what the hell? And he goes over there, and all of a sudden this car pulls up, and they just like waste the Nazi soldiers, and you find out that the people at the
resistance,
they're part of the resistance, and so he gets to escape.
Bronson and them escape by ship.
Yeah, but so the rest of the movie after that initial escape is just,
some have identity changes.
Yeah, which
Steve McQueen's like going fucking
he
rogue.
Says fuck it,
and of course because he's the man, he's got to do some motorcycle stunts.
He wanted that. He had that scene put in there just for him to show off. And so that all there's. Just
but at least Attenborough and the guy from Man from Uncle, at least they had different identities. They had like papers, and at least they had a little bit better plan than some of the others.
Yeah, but they tried, but they got tripped up. One of the Nazis spoke English to him and tripped him up with that one thing that one guy was like, "Don't let English trip you up."
Yeah,
and he got tripped up by it.
Damn it.
Yeah, and so basically, of like the 70 people that escaped, they ended up capturing like most of them. We only see like 3 people escape, and so 50 of them get carted off to somewhere. 20 of them get sent back to camp. And now in the movie, what ends up happening is that Attenborough. Some of them end up getting killed. And
Right.
this, that, and the other. Like, Donald Pleasance gets killed.
Right.
Does Garner get killed?
I
Or does he
don't-
get sent back?
I think he got sent back.
Okay. So Pleasance got killed. Man from U.N.C.L.E. got killed.
Right.
I can't remember. I can't believe I forgot his name. I know his name, too. But anyway, my mom would just slap me right now because I can't remember his name. David McCallum.
Okay.
Yeah, I remembered his name. But Steve McQueen, he tries valiantly, tries to make the jump over the fence, but he gets captured. He gets sent back.
Right.
Richard Attenborough, the guy he's with, they all get captured, carted off into this giant truck, and instead of getting taken back to the camp, they pull over onto this hillside and they go, hey, or it's going to be a while before we get back to the back. Get out and stretch your legs.
Yeah.
And we're like thinking, and I'm thinking this whole time,
Yeah.
if these people have been making a career out of escaping these prisoner of war camps, why haven't the Germans just been shooting them? Why
Right.
haven't the Nazis just been shooting them for
Right.
escaping and all that? Why
Right.
have they been bringing them back? I know there's like rules of war and all
Right.
that, but
Well, you notice also in the movie they got rid of the warden.
yeah, I did notice that.
They kicked him
I
out.
did notice that. By
Who
the way.
knows where they were taking him? Maybe he was getting
He was
dusted.
probably too.
Yeah.
But so they take him out and they let's go ahead and do stretch your legs, and I'm thinking that's suspicious.
Yeah.
And so you see Attenborough having this conversation with his other friend, and he's like, for the first time, actually during all this, I felt alive.
Yeah.
And then you hear this click click.
Yeah.
And you turn around and it's just
That was it.
hail of bullets.
Yeah.
And basically 50 dudes are just murdered.
Yeah.
And that was
I was
that.
like, whoa, this movie.
Come to find out,
Yeah.
that's not what happened verbatim in that scenario.
Okay.
But
In real life.
50 men were shot.
Okay.
They were either shot individually or in groups while escaping.
While escaping.
But there was no mass shooting like that.
Right.
But they were killed.
Okay.
They were all killed like that.
Yeah.
So of the 70 that escaped, 50 were killed.
Wow.
So yeah, the rest go back. Steve McQueen goes back.
Right.
And as the whole motif is every time he got sent back, he had this baseball glove.
And then the ball.
And somebody would throw him his baseball glove with the ball, and he'd get sent back to the cooler, and he'd sit in the cooler and throw the ball
At the
and
wall back
hit
at
it.
him.
Yeah,
But it was kind of, the movie kind of went full circle there because the theme came back on.
yeah,
And McQueen's just like, oh, I'm back.
yeah,
Fuck it.
yep,
He his character was very nonchalant, happy-go-lucky, despite the circumstances, and he went back in there, and
yep.
that was the end of the movie, man. There's no happy ending.
No, it was.
I mean,
kind of bittersweet.
a few made it.
It was
in the
bittersweet
movie.
because
A few made it, but
and,
the movie didn't really celebrate that, though.
Yeah, it
But
was.
it
just,
was just like
yeah,
so much for the lighthearted movie that I thought I was going to get. The
Yeah.
Hogan's Heroes movie.
with that kind of a theme.
Yeah.
It's a prisoner of war movie. It wouldn't make sense for a prisoner of war. Any type of war film should never be lighthearted.
Right.
So, in that aspect, yeah, it shouldn't have been lighthearted, but yeah.
Right.
So that was.
But it didn't last long, though. The lighthearted parts, though. But yeah, the great escape was getting out of the country, man. Because I was wondering, I was just like, okay, some of them got out from the tunnel and they made it past the prison. All right, yay! Nope. I was like, whoa.
Yep.
So that really tripped me out, and I really felt the weight of the movie. Mm-hmm. And then that was my moment of going, aha,
Yeah.
I see you, movie. Now I know why people talk highly of you. So
Yeah.
that was my aha.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
great movie.
Yeah.
Great escape. Great movie.
So as a complete opposite, not to harp on our
You gonna talk about Roller Gator again?
no, not to harp on our martial art movie marathon that didn't go well.
If you guys are curious, watch our previous Verbal Nectar episode where we go into detail of the martial arts films we did watch for the whole weekend.
I mean,
You'll get a kick out of it. So.
I mean, we cheated because one of these movies we knew we enjoyed, and two of these movies I knew I enjoyed, and two of these movies you knew you enjoyed.
Right.
We still had a much better time.
Yeah.
Because
They're
some
all
of these,
classic films that we watched. We didn't waste our time.
Yeah, and some of these movies, like, I don't watch these movies all the time. Like the three that I had seen before, and the two that you hadn't seen or that you had seen before. We don't watch these movies like all the time.
No.
So sometimes when you don't watch a movie for a while, like take the example of The Wizard of Oz.
Right.
We were going back watching this movie, having seen it so many times in our lives, and we were like, oh my God, laughing at things that
still, well, great films are like that though. When you revisit them, sometimes you'll notice new things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And it was nice having a day where you revisit some things that, you've seen so many times and getting to watch it with somebody who hasn't seen it before, and then getting to cap it off with something that we hadn't seen before. It was just a really fun day. So it was nice. It was a nice little time.
And who knows, the very next weekend, we're going to watch Samurai Cop. It'll be nothing but B movies.
You
never know. It'll be nothing but B films, man.
Right now I'm looking at...
what are we looking at here?
D-Day, Battle of Omaha Beach. Fuck you for buying that for me, by the way, you bastard. I'm looking
which one is it?
That awful
Battle of
Asylum movie that you bought me. That was a Midway ripoff with Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell and Nicolas Cage's son, made by the Asylum to capitalize on that Midway movie that didn't do anything, that was directed by Roland fucking Emmerich, who had no business directing a Midway film last year that nobody talks about because it didn't do anything.
We have the gag gift tradition, and it was a gag gift.
That Nenad Lustig has now jumped in on. Thanks, Nenad. Anyway, bought me fucking Hellfest, you crazy motherfucker. What the fuck, dude? You go and waste your hard-earned money on Hellfest. What the hell, my dude? Anyway, look.
Thank you, Nenad. Thank you. Her reaction was worth it. Was all worth it. I'm glad you did it.
Phantom Racer. I'm looking at Outpost: Rise of the fuck it.
Inbred.
I'm looking
The
at
Sand.
Dead Girl.
Hell. Found.
A Dark Song.
What do we got?
5 Girls. Oh God.
Blood Cello. Patrick.
There's just so much shit here.
Who knows?
Who knows
what next weekend will.
What we're gonna talk about, because we just got so much shit to watch, and yet we have streaming services, and we have no business having streaming services because we have thousands of movies that we own that we haven't watched. It's like, what's wrong with us?
It's fun. Anything else you want to talk about with these films before we wrap it up? For the 5 listeners that's going to listen to this podcast, because we're talking about old movies.
If you haven't seen any of these films, or if you haven't seen some of the films, and if we haven't completely spoiled them for you, or if we spoiled them but you still are curious and you haven't seen them, I hope you can give them a shot. That's probably been one of my favorite things about this channel, aside from meeting people from all over the world, not physically face to face, but talking to people from all over the world, is that,
or using this podcast medium as well. Yeah.
Is that we've been able to, and that's one of the joys of social media, is that we've been recommended films that we never would have heard about, and we've been able to recommend films that other people would never have considered, and we get to share films that some people would never have considered or heard of, and they turn around and tell us, hey, we heard about this from you guys and we loved it. Thanks. Here's something that you may not have heard of. Here you go. And I love that, because at the end of the day, if you're listening to us or if you watch our videos, you might be doing so because you love movies too. And as we've stated before, we love movies and we're kind of sick about it. And and it's something that if you love it and you understand why we talk about it and why we can be as insanely passionate as we are about it, you understand why we are the way we are, and it's nice to share that with people. And if you can give older films a chance, I always try to recommend that. Same thing with the same mentality with foreign films. If you can give it a chance, please try, because I would not have the repertoire and the love of cinema that I have had I not given foreign cinema a shot back in the day. Like, imagine my lack of experience with movies if I hadn't ever watched Jean Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast, or if I hadn't started watching Jackie Chan films back in the day. I might never have started talking to you had I never started watching Jackie Chan movies.
Yeah,
if I hadn't started watching anime back in the day, which is obviously very foreign. you know, because that was a big part of why you and I started, you know, hanging out.
Yeah.
Is because of our common love of other things that was not American.
Right.
And I know that a lot of people got butthurt that Parasite won Best Film of the Year for the Oscars. That's a thing, by the way. I got to show you some stuff on YouTube.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, it's funny. It's kind of funny. And I can understand that to an extent, but that might just be because you're not your horizons have not been broadened.
Right.
And I'm not saying that, oh, we're just so much better than you because we love these things that you don't. You just don't get it. It's not about that.
No.
When it comes to cinema, it's a language. It's universal language. That's the whole point. It's like, it's just something that, it's like, if it's not your cup of tea, I get it. It's cool. It's fine. There's some cinema out there that I won't touch with a 10-foot pole, and I admit it. It tends to be more on the romantic comedy side. You're not going to catch me watching a Kristen Bell film. You're not going to catch me watching a Twilight movie. You're not going to catch me watching certain films because they're just not my cup of tea, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Beauty and the Beast, the fantasy story, is something you grew up with.
Yeah.
And that's something that's as far as you'll go.
Yes.
But you won't go out and watch all the Twilight movies. That's the point you want to get across.
But there's a reason why Beauty and the Beast is still with me. I think it's probably because of my childhood.
Right.
And
tale as old as time.
Yeah, I guess so. But
Can't think of the rhyme.
It's fine. It's good.
Be our guest. Be our guest.
No,
Put something.
Don't demonetize us. Stop it. And put something to the test. Right?
I don't know the lyrics.
Put our YouTube dollars to the test. And anyway, I hope if you haven't, you know, ever considered watching these, you know, maybe that we've given you a rundown and we've warned you, hey, these are old. Some of these are maybe look a little old in the tooth because they are, but they're worth it. Hopefully sometimes our enthusiasm will kind of maybe like be like, hey, maybe it's not so bad.
I want to do more of these. I really do. I want to do more podcasts where we talk about older films. Maybe we could do a mixture, talk about old and new.
Yeah.
It's fun. That's why we're here. And very well said to end the podcast. So segue out of here.
And if
very
in the
well
end
said.
if in the end it's not your cup of tea, hey, at least you gave it a chance.
Yeah, at least you gave it a chance. At least you are aware of it.
And yes, I have watched some romantic films back in the day, romantic comedies back in the day. I have.
As good as it gets. You enjoyed that one. Jack Nicholson.
I don't remember it.
You liked it, though.
I don't remember it, but I'm sure I was fine with it. But I have watched them, but back in the day, and it's just, again, it's not something that I actively seek out. I'm just saying I gave it a shot.
I gave Rebecca a shot.
Yeah.
I was fine.
And again, it's not one of those films where I can explain to you why I like Rebecca.
Yeah. I'm not going to call up, Eggshen Montalvo
or
and
Fat
Sexy
Ninja
Sumo.
and
hey, man, y'all need to get your asses over here. We going to watch Rebecca, son.
Yeah, and it's not something that I would be like making a 30-minute video on and being like, hey, y'all, you gotta be watching some Rebecca because this movie is just like, no, it's just a movie where, again, it's like if you settle in, it's raining outside and you're in the mood for a good, moody, atmospheric black and white movie that you've never seen before, and you can settle down for 2 hours, 10 minutes. Hey, give Rebecca a shot.
Yeah.
I
see Rear Window probably being the most accessible out of all these movies that we just watched.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe because there's more going on than in The Hustler, because The Hustler's too personal.
Yeah.
The Hustler's
The
very
Great Escape
personal.
is long.
Yes, it's very long.
Yeah. But
I mean, The Wizard of Oz is very obvious and colorful.
Actually, Wizard of Oz would probably be the most
But some people don't like fantasy and musicals.
Or musicals, yeah.
So,
But we did enjoy ourselves watching these films, and we don't recommend you watch Roller Gator. That's going to be a theme. I think every podcast we're just throwing Roller Gator.
Woof.
And and you know what? It's going to backfire, and people are going to go out and search for Roller Gator. They're going to want to watch it.
Don't watch Roller
No, don't do
Gator.
it. Don't do it. We like you. But again, you can find us knuckleheads on our YouTube channel, That Phat Samurai Guy. Please head over there and like, subscribe, and follow us. Follow us, ridiculous people. And thanks again, all you badasses, for listening to this Verbal Nectar podcast episode. You can listen to this podcast and others older episodes on Anchor FM, Spotify, and Google Cast, and many more. We'll put the links in the description box below if you're listening to this on our YouTube channel. All right, thank all you badasses for watching. We'll see you guys next time. You guys fucking rock. And peace out. Jimmy Stewart Needle Dick.
Wow.